Oops, I just broke my pencil.
Zavertnick. Yeah. Zavertnick.
Subverting your expectation.
Can I say
I wish.
Zavertnick?
Yes.
Like vertical, right?
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah. Zavertnick. Well, yeah, just Zavertnick.
Okay. Hey, can I ask what that is? I mean, I get it all the time. So
it's actually.
I'll kill you.
Coming to you from somewhere deep inside Transition Studios. Brought to you by your hosts, Roger and Lito. Welcome to Sci-Fi Rewind!
It's gone, Mccready.
All right. Welcome back to Sci-Fi Rewind.
Is it recording?
I'm Lito.
Should we redo that?
And your name is?
And I'm Roger.
And today we got Tom Zavertnick with us.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about The Thing. All right. That's what you're coming with, right?
Yes, John Carpenter's 1982 classic, The Thing.
Okay. Well, before we get into that, let's talk about ourselves and what we do here a little bit. And this is Sci-Fi Rewind. Can I help you, Roger?
Are we recording?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I honestly don't know. I didn't know if we've been recording this entire time.
We are recording, Roger. We're going to keep plowing through this.
Okay, yeah, this is going to be an interesting. This is going to be an interesting.
Did I catch you off guard?
Yeah, you caught me off guard. I thought.
You know, like I said, like they do in those other podcasts. Like they just start going, and and then we just keep rolling.
Okay.
All right. If you want to start over, we can
start no, it's fine. I feel like this is an interesting way to start it.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. All right, so that's a little taste of what's going on here, Tom. Okay, you know we keep things fun, keep things light. We're not trying to be super serious. So, we're podcasts. We deal with sci-fi. We talk about it from our generational point of view. I'm from like the late Generation X, you know, so I get a little bit of both. Roger, he's full on millennial into the next generation. And Tom, if you don't mind, like, where do you fit in the schedule in the spectrum?
I was born '97, so what? That'd be millennial, right?
Yeah. So we got two millennials versus technically a Gen Xer today, which is kind of cool. But we're gonna get into something about that. And you know, we asked two simple questions: will this get made today? And what were the filmmakers thinking? What was their message? What was their themes? And we're gonna find out all that stuff as we get through this. So you know, sit back, enjoy the ride. Make sure if there's somebody next to you, that they're a human. And let's get started. Our guest today is Tom Zavertnick. I know him from film school, the CSU Film School from upstairs. Great guy to have on your crew if you need somebody. If you can even get him now. if you can get him now, he's in high demand. Thank you very much for doing this for us. We're
of course
super excited. You were like one of the first people I wanted to talk to, and everyone's going to see why.
Oh, yeah. I love science fiction, so once I heard you guys were doing that, I was like, well, I know it's probably going to be just a matter of time before Lito comes knocking on the door to be like, let's talk some sci-fi.
Yeah, we talked on set, we talked at school, and then, you know. So this is going to be great. You actually edited a film of mine, Revelation, mine and Greg Ellick, who's out in L.A. these days. Hopefully we can get him in remote one day for us.
That'd be cool.
I'd love to have him on the show. And it was a film we did outside of film school, but with the film school's help, because they let us use an old 16 millimeter film camera that they had just sitting around. So I rounded up a bunch of people and I said, hey, let's film on film. Let's just say it. We're in film school. Let's make a film on film. They don't have that program anymore, but let's go for it. And Tom, you know, got brought on from Greg, and I couldn't have been happier with how it turned out. And very easy to work with, and making changes. And we were super lucky to get you, you know, on the project. sure Greg had a lot to do with that.
That was also, I think, the first project I'd actually edited that was purely shot on film. So it was like with authentic film grain and stuff. And
Exactly.
I am definitely I love my film grain and the film dirty effects.
Right.
You know, when
The little hairs.
yeah, not purely restoring the whole image type of deal.
Right.
I'm a big, huge fan of that. So that was a cool project to work on.
Then are you? And then you obviously you can use that as your future reel, right? I mean, have you used like maybe a cut or two to kind of help you, or?
Well, surprisingly enough, I don't have a reel yet, but
Oh, no.
things keep dropping in front, so it's kind of just taking up the time of making a reel, which I guess, hey, you know, as long as the work keeps coming, you know.
Okay. Well, what I'll probably do.
But I definitely will use it in a
Nice.
reel when I make one.
I love it. Yes, please do. When I do the description of this podcast, I'll link that, you know, as some of your work that people can see and kind of you know, let people know who they're listening to.
Yeah,
So
I haven't seen it, so I'd be interested in checking it out.
would it be considered sci-fi? A little hint about it. Okay, I got you. Check. So like, let's talk a little bit about yourself. You know, let us know who you are.
So I'm Ohio raised and born, or born and raised, I should say,
Sure.
not the other way around. I've always lived straight in Brunswick, Ohio, I think my entire life. I got really into film in high school. This film in particular that we will talk about soon is probably partially one of the reasons I really got into film. And then I ended up, I went to like the Medina County Career Center where I went into video production, fell in love with it even more there, and decided to pursue it into college. And CSU, where we had met and had worked on quite a few projects. And then coming to Transition Studios afterwards, you know, just continuing that love to work on projects and film, video, all of that sort.
When I saw that you were working here, because I took a break from this place, long break, and I saw that you were here, I'm like, man, they got themselves a good one. Like, they snatched up a good one
yeah.
early, you know, like when you want.
I graduated, I think, that Friday, and I started as intern on that following Monday after grad, even in the midst of, I think, COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
Somebody has an eye for talent here. We got to, you know, point that out. So, all right. And one question, where do you see yourself? Like, when your career, like, where do you see yourself? What do you want to do? I mean, obviously editing, but what do you see yourself becoming? Like, what do you want to work on? What's your dream project?
I would really love to work on, obviously, narrative feature projects, as probably a lot of people do, but totally fine, obviously, doing doc stuff because it's kind of what I've started in, and I learned a lot over the last year and a half or so since working at Transition about documentary, which I wasn't the biggest fan of documentary, I think, as a genre or as kind of that type of project before, but now that I'm in it, I really see the benefits, and I think just what the genre has to offer that I never really had seen before. But as a future, I'd really love to be doing and editing on science fiction features.
For real?
Yes.
Okay.
Stuff like, I know this would probably be a million years from now, but stuff like, you know, it'd be great to get on a Star Wars project, or, you know.
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
I'd love to, if there was some way I could get into the Dune Part 2 editing room, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Right.
I would probably break a lot of friendships here, but oh my God, to be a part of that would be amazing. Any film that Denis does, I wish I could jump on that.
Did you hear that Villeneuve stated that if he wanted to do the story justice, he would have to divide it into 3 parts?
No, I haven't heard about that. I heard he might do the second book, which I know it's shorter than the first, and that's probably, as a studio, where I'd stop. It gets kind of wacky after. I mean, all for it if you go after that, but yeah, anything science fiction in the theater, I just absolutely love.
You touched on Star Wars.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna stop talking about the thing.
Okay, yeah, no.
Well, I don't know if we want to go deep dive into Star. Like, that
Why
could
do
be
we
a
want-
whole.
No, I'm done with the thing. Like, I'm
that
good.
might be a whole other talk.
Why do we want to talk about this
The-
gross movie?
The thing is good. All right. The thing is good. Podcast over. Let's talk about Star Wars.
That could probably be my return.
Okay.
Is for Star Wars, something Star Wars.
Let's talk about the recently released Mandalorian Season 3.
Okay. All right, Raj. But here's the thing. One thing that we kind of would share a future goal on is definitely working on a Star Wars film. Anything. I'd take
think
out the
that would be a
trash.
joy.
I'd do anything. To just say once I got to do something on a Star Wars film, it'd be through the moon and back again. And not to self-plug myself, but same dream. So, all right, let's get started here. Do you know what you know how kind of operates here, right?
At least with the pitching.
Yeah, like that's how we start out. That's how we learn the story and the characters and who you got attached and whatnot.
Oh yeah. So, before we get in, I just want to say it's very appropriate that we're talking about The Thing, considering the Cleveland weather right here.
Yes.
Everyone's
Good
just
point.
kind of snowed in at this point. It's
You
hard
mean-
to leave.
Cue
mean-
that classic Mccready line. It's the first week of winter.
Okay. Also, I don't know, for you Star Wars lovers out there, I know you're out there. You got a little bit of Hoth out here in Cleveland, Ohio, too. So don't forget that whole connection. So, what we do, you're gonna have to pitch us a thing. We're pretty shrewd executives,
Okay.
if you will.
I'll try my best.
Absolutely.
Describe the story. Briefly describe the story. Describe actors, people involved, things like that, and like maybe budgets.
So just go into that now, or
Yeah, we'll just need a
little break.
A little
Okay.
break.
All right. Hey, Raj, what are you working on? You okay? You got a second?
Oh yeah, sure. What's up? What are we doing?
I got this guy Tom. He's got a great idea for a film. I was trying to get up on an elevator. He caught the elevator with me, and he pitched me something. I think you need to listen to it.
Elevator pitch. All right.
Oh yeah, elevator pitch.
If you're interested, I'll listen. What's up?
I'm interested.
Okay.
I'm halfway in, but obviously you're my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to figure that out. So, this is Tom. Tom.
hello.
Hello, Tom. All right. What's your idea?
So my idea is it's a film called The Thing. All right. It's
The Thing.
pretty much you have
What's-
a bunch of
What's the thing called?
The Thing. It's just called The Thing.
Okay.
That's
And
the
it's-
thing.
All right. Simple. Easy to remember.
And we got
All
a
right.
science fiction horror film that we take down to. It's a bunch of researchers stuck at an outpost on Antarctica, and they discover the.
Whoa. You gonna shoot in Antarctica?
Well,
On
we
location?
can already have some stuff sorted out in Alaska, and then shoot interiors in Los Angeles.
Okay,
we've-
now you're
we've-
talking my language.
Yeah, we got some of that kind of
All
sorted
right,
a bit.
got it. All right.
Like
you
I already got
a
some
plan.
connections that we could probably make it happen real quick.
Dude,
All
this
right.
guy's resourceful. I love it.
So,
But they find the remains of what seems to be some unknown specimen, and they bring it back to their base, and it unthaws. Well, not so much that unthaws, but it gets back to the base, and then that creature starts to. It wakes up.
all right.
Well, it wakes up. It essentially then can take over its victims and then look like them. It's like a shape-shifting alien that can look like your best friend or your leader, or so to speak. So then they have this situation where they now have to figure out who is the thing and who is just pure human.
Anybody could be the thing. Anybody. It's like open-ended. It could be any of these
Yeah.
people. How many people are you talking about?
Ooh. It's probably going to be a pretty decent group. I wouldn't say probably around overall, after some little characters that come in and out, mainly probably towards the beginning of the film. Probably like less than, like a 20 or less, I would say.
20 or less.
Yes.
Total
all
actors.
And all men.
That might be pushing it a little too many.
Wait
I
a
think we may
minute.
want to go around maybe more so 10.
Yeah. And then you said all men.
All men. The
Uh,
director
you know my-
doesn't want any, he did not want any women in the film so that there was no possible inclusion of a romance.
So we can't include a love story.
No,
all
that's
right.
that's my number one question.
I also think I could probably kind of buff. They don't know so much find the alien in the ice.
Uh-huh.
They more so find out from this base
Can the
nearby that's already burned down, but
Uh-huh.
has these things.
Can
out
the
in ice that
alien
bring
be
it home.
female?
Um,
Just to check
the-
that box.
You're never really gonna see what it actually looks like. You more so see how it's morphed
I
through
love
the different things it's come into contact with. At least that's kind of how it's alluded to in the script.
I love it when you don't know the monster, when you don't see the monster. Like, what is the monster? Like, I don't know, it's a monster.
If I could ask, is this an original idea or is it based off of something?
Yeah, we got a market already based.
So this
built
is
up?
it's a new adaptation of the novella Who Goes There by John Campbell Jr. And
Ooh,
there was a 1950s one film by Howard Hawks called The Thing from Another World that he had already kind of done that story, but he didn't do the shape-shifting creature. He kind of just did like a Frankenstein, this monster made out of vegetation.
okay.
So there is some brand recognition here. We could probably use that.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
It's a readaptation of that short story, so to
Okay.
speak.
Hey, if it's worked before, it's going to work again. I love where you're going with this. You know, it's not, and as you know, original ideas are sometimes hard to digest. But if this has a proven record, this is great. And then if it's got like a low key proven record, like it's not been out in the mainstream,
I guess
we got a hidden gem
the
here.
best way to put it, I guess, because it's obviously an adaptation of that same short story that The Thing from Another World did.
Mhm.
The best way to put it is it's The Thing from Another World meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh,
Like the distrust of one another of who has already been snatched, who has not been.
yeah.
Well, all right. So who do you have involved? Who is your above-the-line talent?
For the director, we have John Carpenter, who is hot off the trails of Halloween, which has already been a
Oh.
huge success.
Oh,
And he had just done the film Escape from New York, and he's bringing his star from that, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. Didn't he do Disney movies when he was a kid?
Yes, he did.
Sounds like we got a potentially good crew involved. So yeah, that's
Are
interesting.
we going to get his team?
Yeah, we're probably most likely going to get a lot of the same people that John Carpenter had worked for.
Very
He's
good.
pulling his same special effects, or they were more so a part of the special effects. They weren't the lead, but Rob Bottin from The Fog that he had
Oh.
already done. I think
Excellent.
was it before Halloween? I don't know if that was before or after, but around that time. But he's coming to do the effects. Alongside Kurt Russell, we also have Wilford Brimley.
Oh man, Wilford Brimley. What's that show he was on? Something about a family, right? Is that my way off? I can't remember
100%
everybody.
sure.
My mind is going these days, But
And then
is he gonna sell tickets?
hopefully.
Is he gonna pull in
I would
a?
say so.
Is he gonna
Hopefully.
pull in a demographic for us?
Maybe probably a bit of an older demographic. I think,
Perfect.
for the Wilford Brimley.
A lot of seniors go
I
to.
mean, this will
picture-
most likely be rated R, so you're not probably going to get.
That's fine.
the
Adults.
PG-13.
What makes it
Okay.
rated R? Why do you think that?
Well, it's going to have excessive gore, not at every scene, but it's going to have these alien transformation scenes, these horrific, very bloody, it's gooey, a lot
Yeah.
of these mashed body parts together, and there's going to be a lot of blood. There's some death, there's some fire.
Have we seen anything like this before? As far as this gore, like, is it is it been done before? This type of gore?
This type of gore, at least to my knowledge, not in this way.
Okay, so we got some
And
originality here.
and behind the scenes, they're really trying to come up with this unique way. What do you make a shape-shifting alien look like
Right.
when you don't know what the base, what it originally looked like, how it's formed, through these things.
So it's an organism.
Yes,
And
from
how
outer
did,
space.
Oh, okay, cool. I was just about to ask, how did it get here?
It crash lands like hundreds of thousands of years prior in the Antarctic snow,
Uh-huh.
and it freezes until. I mean, this is more so the backstory of it, but a different base discovers it, and it's through the aftermath of that one that this American base finds out about all these things.
And how did we connect the two bases?
Well, we begin the film actually, I think in a very kind of unique way. This imagery of this dog running in a vast, isolated, open snow field with a helicopter chasing right behind him, shooting at the dog.
Whoa! Stop you right there. No dogs are gonna die, right?
Oh, well,
There
is some.
That's a rule.
There are dogs that die in this film,
Oh boy.
and quite
that might be
I
a
think
deal
quite
breaker.
brutally. But obviously, we're not physically killing real dogs.
Of course not. But the PETA people, come on, they're gonna be knocking at our door for this one. You think?
Well, they had actually just founded the year that this film would be coming out, so we might be able to skate by a bit because they had just formed just recently, if we're going within the mind of 82.
They formed because of the thing.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe they did form because of the thing. They saw the thing and they're like, I don't want to see that happen to dogs anymore.
Well, there was, yeah. I mean, I don't want to see it.
I mean, no one wants to see that.
No one.
happen
There's
to
two
dogs.
things I don't want to see.
But that's
I don't even want
that's
to
what
mention the other
helps you
thing.
hate the thing. It kills dogs.
Exactly.
And
That's a good point.
This thing should be destroyed with fire.
Yes. At
Yes,
any
fire looks
ins-
great on film.
Fire always looks great on film.
Yes, I love fire.
As long as the proper safety
I
procedures. are
love
put
the
into place.
contrast. We got ice. We got fire. I got an idea for a film in the future, way future, with dragons. I love.
No, I mean a dragon fused by the thing would certainly be something.
I got this young kid, George R.R.
But
Wants
in terms
story.
of budget,
Yeah.
John Carpenter, he's thinking probably around $20 million.
20 million.
With
No.
at least
Oh,
1.5 million set aside purely for the effects.
No, you're getting 15. We're not giving it 20.
Yeah, 20, and you're talking to another studio. This is not going to work for us.
I mean, we could, we can see.
That's all. That's all we can do for you. We're sorry, but we're not.
Yeah,
we're
we're
not
strapped.
going 20
We're strapped
million.
with this. What is this?
But this
ET
is the
in it?
horror crowd.
We got.
You
we
put
got,
a horror film in a theater, and you have it come out hopefully around,
We got ET in the pipeline. That's costing us an arm and a leg. Now you're talking about.
Well, that's Spielberg. He can probably afford the arm and the leg. He just got the success off Jaws.
Yeah, right. A
I think Close
phenomenon.
Encounters, right? Or
I'm not sure.
I don't know if that had came out yet.
We'll figure it. Yeah.
No,
Good
yeah, would
question.
have to. That's 77. So
Right.
yeah, he's already done. He's done his big sci-fi. He's got
So
his checks.
so he's more of a guaranteed thing.
True.
John Carpenter Halloween, you got the horror crowd, but like we're talking blockbuster. We got to, ET is going to be tough to beat. Are you
And
gonna,
Carpenter's more used to the independent, so this is kind of his first involvement with studio. So
Okay.
he's going to kind of see how this goes.
This is an experiment, so this is a risk.
We'll get him involved with the Hollywood system if this works out. So yeah, this is gonna be good if this is a success.
Yeah.
I'm certain this will be good for everyone. And John Carpenter definitely won't come out cynical after this experience.
And we're giving him a pretty decent star here in Kurt Russell. So
Well, there are. I mean, that's kind of just the combo already.
Right.
You're just getting that with the Carpenter. That's already kind of like a good
so
duo to go with.
we're definitely going to be bringing in the teenage crowd with this, but obviously it's not a romance film, so no one's going to get any warm and fuzzies as far as the girl and the boy.
This is a pretty
star-crossed
dark
lovers.
nihilist film based upon the script.
It just shuts the door on this. Other people that come to the movies that I just do not like. I'd like to be inclusive, but that's me.
From what I'm hearing is it doesn't sound like it's a fun movie per se. It doesn't sound like people will necessarily enjoy their time watching it. So I'm a little worried here. But
I would say Carpenter has the more of the fan of the horror, like purely made for horror fans. That's kind of his aim he's going with here.
Okay.
We'll see how they respond when it comes out. Hopefully,
Okay.
if we get, we get
Horror's
greenlit.
a great genre.
It's the most. I would say the fans have the most forgiving. As long as effects look great,
Right.
They can. Most horror fans can kind of just forgive a lot of the other parts as long as it looks great.
which you mentioned, we're going to spend a ton of this budget on special effects. So
Yes,
this is going to break new ground. I'm assuming.
Wants to make sure that the effects look really solid.
I'm trying to sell you your own movie. How about that? So no females.
No.
Dogs get killed.
Yes.
Who else you got? Somebody else? Anybody?
I mean, we got Keith David.
What about the diversity here? Talk about the diversity. I'm an inclusive person.
Well, Keith David.
Yeah, Keith David. Okay, great. From Night Court.
At this
Night Court
point, I
around?
don't really think he's had much.
Okay, gotcha.
Besides, I think one other feature that he recently starred in, this should be pretty much his big exposure.
Okay, cool.
That Carpenter and him have this really good bond going on that I think he's probably going to want to. He's probably going to be in another film of his down the line. I could see it. They're really good friends.
So we got Keith David. All right, perfect.
maybe throw in one more person of color in there, and then I think we're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we're not going to have females, let's get let's have some other.
Let's fill in the
different
diversity
people.
quota.
Exactly. I've got this kid, T.K. Carter. He's looking for a gig.
Yeah, I mean, I can
All right.
pass him over to Carpenter. He's been trying to look to fill in a few other roles. And,
Yeah.
I think he'd probably really fit in. This character of Knowles, I'm assuming, that Carpenter needs to still fill.
Yeah, he's kind of He's kind of lanky, kind of goofy, kind of feel good guy. There's always a guy that like, oh, if that guy dies,
Almost a comedic character.
exactly. You know what I mean? Like that guy's not gonna die. That guy's he's the laughs. He's the comedic. So I think he can fill that
a
role.
lot of the cast is dying in this film.
Like any good horror movie.
okay,
right?
can we-
Like any kind of classic.
Can we maybe avoid showing them die? TK Carter and Keith David dying per se. If possible.
Well, I can at least say that Keith David is one of the people that makes it out by the end. But there's an ambiguous type of feeling to the end.
Well, I'm saying
Talk-
what I'm saying is, if they're going to die, can we at least maybe do it off screen or something?
We can work that out.
Okay.
I feel like, you can pass all these notes along to Carpenter.
So-
Ultimately, I'm not the final director, so I can't.
We are a spoiler-free
Right.
podcast. So,
Mhm.
I mean, spoiler heavy. I'm sorry. We are a spoiler-heavy podcast. If you can edit that other part out.
Okay.
How does it end? Talk to me about the ending.
Well, the end of the film, we have Kurt Russell as Mccready, and Mccready has this final showdown with the Thing. It's kind of ultimately very quick, but him and Knowles and the character of Gary are the last pretty much remaining humans, at least as they see it. Childs, who's played by Keith David, kind of wanders off on his own. They notice this, so he's kind of absent from this whole finale. And in that finale, Blair, who throughout the film they kind of isolated him.
At least
from
you have
the
a
whole
female
group.
name.
I mean, I guess. And he ends up being the final thing and silently takes out Knowles and Gary without Mccready hearing. And at the very end of the film, the Thing comes out to Mccready. Mccready says a classic F-bomb.
Oh,
Somersaults away. Well, no, he somersaults away, does a big F-bomb, throws the dynamite, the whole thing explodes, the rest of the base explodes in the process.
yes.
So the whole base,
Does he walk in? Like, is he walking in front of the explosion?
no,
not
he's
one of those
walking,
scenes.
no.
Okay, gotcha.
This is more so of you just noticing this giant base on fire in the middle of this isolated snow.
Gotcha.
And the final scene is him just sitting there after everything that he's done. There's no really place to sit. After this fire goes down, that's kind of it. He's just
Okay.
gonna be sitting in snow. But Childs walks up
Yeah.
and he's questioning, why? Where were you? And he's like, oh, I noticed Blair, run out this way. So it ends on this ambiguous note of, is Childs the Thing?
Yeah.
But McCready's not really in a position to do anything.
Because we're not one and doneers. We like to see if we can't continue this as a franchise. Would you be open to that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, we'll see what Carpenter thinks.
Right. Is he gonna doing sequels? Is he gonna do Halloween 2?
Carpenter always kind of seems like a person who kind of does his story,
Yeah.
and he accomplishes what he wants to say in that one story and kind of
Okay.
walks away.
So this might be a one and doneer.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Sounds like all right.
Well, we
that's-
could always get people to do sequels or potential remakes or something,
Hey,
or prequels.
someone's always looking for a job.
I mean,
Yeah.
this ship. I mean, there's the other base.
Okay.
They find that Norwegian base and it's destroyed. You could probably make another film out of that.
Perfect. Okay. I got one final question. Pitch me the story from the aliens' point of view. Go.
Well, if we're gonna go on the timeline order, it crashes on Earth. It wakes up, steps outside, is like, where the hell am I? And then probably doesn't have enough time after the crashing on this planet, and however its condition is, freezes outside in the ice. Jump 100,000 of years later, this thing's woken up, probably not happy in wherever it's at, because the alien, last thing it remembers was walking out of its ship. And it's probably just doing what it was made to do, which was assimilate other creatures into itself to keep building up itself. And all these people want to kill it. And
Why does it wanna kill it?
And it just wants to live.
Why
But-
are they so quick to pass judgment on this innocent alien?
Well,
It's just
it
doing
might
what-
thinks it's innocent, but in its process of doing what it's doing is kind of killing the old to take over for its new thing.
Right.
But it's a very gory sight, so it doesn't really look pleasant to anyone else that possibly sees this. And
Let's take out all the, let's try to swing it from the alien's point of view, his or she, sorry. It's just trying to survive, right?
yes,
And who's trying to stop it?
all the other researchers, all the people at the base, that they themselves are trying to not become the thing, so survive in their own right,
Okay.
while they're isolated in the middle of nowhere of this frozen it's not really a wasteland, but I just like to say frozen wasteland, even though it's not. It's ice. It's just ice and snow.
So the humans are the bad guys in
the aliens' perspective,
Right.
It's trying. Yeah, they're trying to kill it, to just stop it completely, and it does not want to stop.
Does the alien try to communicate with the humans and say, "Hey, I'm just trying to get back home," you know?
No,
No,
it's not really open about it.
it just
What
wants
it
to take over.
do. It just kind of is going to take over people
Well,
and build its own ship to possibly go anywhere. Possibly.
okay.
Well,
It's not too bad.
we might have to talk about it a little bit more, but I'm interested in the idea. So, all right, if you just want to, I don't know, we'll if you just want to head out, me and Lito will talk about it more, and we'll give you some ideas to whether we'll greenlight it or not later. All right?
All right.
Yeah.
I'll head back to Carpenter. I'll
Sure.
tell him a bit about what we've done, and
Yeah.
so hopefully hear back from you guys soon.
I'm excited. I
Yeah.
think this might be doable because
It might be.
small
It might be.
cast. You know, you're talking. We don't have to shoot in Antarctica. We can figure something out. You got that figured out.
15
15 million.
million. We'll see how that goes.
That's an M, right? I'm gonna go with a soft go. I'm gonna go with the soft green light, but I'm gonna be, I definitely want to keep an eye on the receipts, and if this doesn't do well, I'm not doing a sequel. I'm not even gonna think about it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm hesitant still. I don't know if this is necessarily a film that you can really pitch to people. Why would you want to watch a movie that's going to make you feel sad?
At least we kind of get a happy ending.
Well,
maybe from
maybe.
what it sounds like.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. But yeah, I'm a little hesitant on it, so we'll have to. We'll get back into it a little later. But have a nice day.
No, thank you.
Have a good one.
We validate parking.
Oh, sweet. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's not many other places around here do that.
Right.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Great job.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah,
Good
besides,
job, Tom.
and when I went to talk about that, and I think I ended up talking more about the 2011 in a log line sense. But,
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh yeah.
So, like, if you were to do the log line for the thing, did you want to switch it up?
No, I feel like I could just read exactly what
Sure,
Letterboxd
yeah,
says,
that's
but
fine,
I almost
yeah.
kind of don't, because that's a paragraph.
Yeah.
That's no.
Yeah. No, I don't think it would get made today.
Unfortunately, I do not think so.
You know, Blumhouse is making it, right?
They're
What?
redoing?
Yeah, they're doing it. Again.
A remake?
Or just another adaptation of the story. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm,
Blumhouse. They announced it. It wasn't recent,
okay.
but I know Carpenter, I think, is involved in some. He's not directing. There's
Yeah.
No way. He's,
Oh,
done,
okay.
he's done doing movies.
I feel like you talked about we've talked behind the scenes, and you said you liked the 2011 version. I feel like
Oh, the 2011. Yeah. I just borderline like it, but
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if we should probably save that for
Yeah, let's say,
but,
yeah.
later
but I'm
bit,
just saying, like, out of anyone in the world who probably doesn't mind it, I feel like John Carpenter is one of those people who doesn't mind it. He probably got a paycheck out of it, and so
Yeah, it's all about the money.
yeah.
So, initial thoughts and your nostalgia with the film, please, Tom.
So I'll start with the nostalgia of it, and
Yeah.
then I'll get into the initial thoughts, because my discovery of this film was a very interesting one, at least for me, because I don't think it was the first kind of film that this has happened with. So I was in 7th grade, and I think at that time, it was on my iPod Touch with the classic YouTube TV logo. I don't know if you had the iPod Touch back in the day. The YouTube had this logo that was like an old TV. It was kind of funky. Well, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube in my 7th grade, and I had come across this Watch Mojo episode of like top 10 horror effects or something, like effects in horror films. And I think that's kind of when I started really getting into horror films. And my dad had shown me when I was too young, most likely, because I think I was in like 5th grade. He showed me Predator, and that was like, besides that, all I had watched was Star Wars, Batman, Superman.
Okay.
That was it. I didn't see skulls coming out of people's backs.
Right.
Dude who's talking like this.
Yeah.
That was just nothing wrong with talking like that, but that was just so like, whoa, this dude's like a behemoth of a man. And I kind of, at the time, was like, I've never seen anything like this.
Okay.
And that opened the door to my dad showing me like Alien, the rest of the Predator films, at least Commando, like all the Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff. So I just had really gotten into those 80s action films. But then on that same compass, a lot of the discussion, at least online, that I kept sawing around those films was like 1980s horror films.
Okay.
So I kind of wandered into on my own, looking into those, and through that Watch Mojo video, I think like number two and or one of them was The Fly,
Yes.
and one of them was The Thing, and I was just like the imagery of what I was seeing in The Thing. I was like, this looks incredible. Like this.
Can I ask about that real quick? Stop. Do you like practical effects or CGI? Because you kind of grew up with CGI, like, right?
Well, I would. I mean, I grew up watching, obviously, the Star Wars prequels, which are very heavy in CG.
Yeah,
so I don't think at the time I had any. It was just like a movie. Like I was just watching.
Oh,
I was
you
like,
didn't think it looked like a cartoon?
Yeah, not like because there was nothing really for me to compare it to.
Gotcha.
You know?
Excellent.
But once I'd gotten into horror stuff, that's when I had noticed there was this huge love for practical effects, and this film in particular being like, whoa, like somebody made that, like seeing on screen somebody physically made that, and they got all these people to work together and all the people that are involved with making that happen, and I was just like enthralled by that. I was like, that's incredible. And the sound design, like the monster sounds, I never heard anything like that. You had Kurt Russell, who just, I was like, this dude looks like the perfect man.
He looks so
like,
cool.
He just his coolness in that film is just
cool.
well, it's overstated I think by this point, but at the time I was like, Batman's cool enough, but this is just a normal pilot guy who's just stuck in Antarctica and now has to deal with these alien creatures that are just killing a bunch of these researchers.
Right.
In the opening, he really doesn't care.
No.
He's
I mean, I think
so
in the
annoyed.
script, it's like, Mccready likes chess, hates the cold, the pay is good. And, like, that's it. That's how it describes his character, And
That's great.
I think Kurt Russell really excels that.
Okay.
These are these guys that literally, if they don't do anything, like, they're dead, But after I'd watched that Watch Mojo video, I then went to look up the film on YouTube, and I watched the whole movie on my iPod Touch in parts off of YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, that was awesome. Like, I had just spent, and it's funny, my first watch of it was on my iPod. It was not a TV. It wasn't in a theater.
Yeah.
And I went to my dad, and I'm like, hey, do you know about this film called The Thing? And he was like, no, like with Kurt Russell? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I remember he babysat his younger brother at the time, and it was like a really crazy winter. And he turned on, I don't remember what channel it was, and it was just playing it.
Yeah.
And he said like that for the rest of the night, like he kept the lights on, and he's just like, I didn't want to go outside in the cold that night to even grab.
Can I trust my brother is real?
Exactly.
Yeah, and he's just like,
That's what it is.
That's
That's what this does. Yeah.
And
That's the horror.
Back in the day, he hadn't seen it since, but he was like, yeah, I remember being like a really freaky. The effects were really gory, and he was like, yeah, why? And I was like, oh, I just watched the whole thing on my iPod. And he was like, why on the iPod?
Yeah.
So I think later on that week he came back from work and he had bought the DVD from like the exchange.
Look, I want to stop you right there. You got to bring your dad in, and I got to shake his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very much responsible, I think, for a lot of the music and the film interest that I have. And then now later on have gone to film school and being introduced to so many films and perspectives of international films, and coming back to him and be like, hey, you should check these out. And that's even reciprocated now when he watches something. And he's like, I never would have thought about that kind of perspective to a film if you had not shown me a lot of these things.
Right.
Because he was just used to the Star Wars, Batman, Superman, a lot of things that I think a lot of his kids that the generation grew up with, that was just in the mainstream.
Right. So I'm going to paint a picture of people listening. You're wearing a Motley Crue shirt.
Born in 1997, wearing a Motley Crue shirt. Yeah.
Okay, now how does this happen? How do you wear Motley Crue? You listen to Tool. You wear Star Wars shirts. Like, you're not a product of like your generation. You have absorbed like the 80s and 90s. You and I would have been best friends growing up because we're totally into the same things. How does that work when you were born in 97?
Yes.
When I graduated high school. How does that work? And then I think a lot has to do with your father. Like,
yeah, I'd pin it all on him.
He's probably closer to my age, or a little bit younger or older, probably.
67.
Yeah, well, he's a little bit older. Okay, cool. So he's definitely in
in 1967. Like, that's when he was born.
Oh, he was born in 67. Yeah. Okay, cool. So he's like...
Not that he's 67.
Okay, gotcha. So and he exposed you to all this great
Yes.
stuff.
Very early, probably
Yeah.
too early. I'd
Okay.
admit it. Like I like
Okay.
all the stuff he showed me, but
Like the Predator.
like
that's
showing me
great.
Predator 5th grade. You
It
know,
took, my dad was the same way. Like he didn't. I was watching Red Dawn younger than you when I was like 5, so that's not great. But the original version with like Patrick Swayze and stuff.
yes.
So we have to like obviously when you come back, bring your dad or something because
Yeah.
we need to have him on and thank him
Yeah,
for
I'm very curious what
for
film he would
spawning
choose
you
and whatnot.
the way you are, and this is amazing because in my eyes you're an anomaly. You shouldn't be into this kind of, but you are. You're like this is total, and it's like this is not the only thing that you're like completely aware of. I could ask you anything, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's
Probably, maybe.
amazing. Like we can talk about the Blue Velvet, right?
Yeah, David Lynch.
Yeah, and
with
you
the-
know anything, everything about that.
Well, I think probably part of that probably has to deal with also film school. That did
Sure.
open a lot. And I think there were quite a few other individuals of the same interest then, but not everyone that like with the knowledge of the age. But that's that's fine.
Right. I'm just saying. I'm gonna wrap this up quick because I don't want to embarrass you or anything. But like, if you were my kid, I'd be so proud. Okay.
Well, thank you, Lito.
So,
But he bought the
continue.
DVD,
You're sure.
from the exchange, and then I got to watch it on I think we had like a 32-inch CRT TV.
CRT. Look at
CRT DVD. Like at the time, that was the best I got for me. Now it's like, if that's not a 75-inch 4K TV with surround sound, like
Exactly.
that's not my first watch. I'm waiting until I got that, or it's in the theater.
Right.
But we got the DVD and watched it on a much bigger screen than my iPod, and like I was in love with this movie.
That's great.
I had watched so much. I think anytime I had friends come over, okay, so like this 100% happened where I had a bunch of friends come over, and we had like watched the movie,
Yeah.
and then I don't think it was not too long after that actually the 2011 one came out.
Oh.
And then I think it was like 2 months later. Like it was announced, I heard about it, and then like a month later it was out.
Yeah.
Not that it was announced a month later, but that's just when I heard about it. And then my dad and I went to see that film. And then I was just like in a Thing crate, like just the universe of the Thing, the monster of the Thing.
The coolness of the
That
hero.
I had convinced my friends in middle school. We had a lunch table that we all sat at.
This guy.
And we all had nicknames of the characters of the film.
Yes.
So I was Mccready.
This is
We
awesome.
had a friend Childs. We had Clark. We had a Knowles. We had them all. And my friend Taylor, who we had his name was Windows because
Windows.
I think he
love
kind of had the
Windows.
poofy hair
Oh,
at
yeah.
the time.
Dude, Windows was my favorite character.
Windows blast him, and
Yeah.
then you don't.
Well,
But yeah,
He
there was
goes
like a
out.
Thing craze for me in seventh grade, and
I can't
I
believe
had
it.
forever loved the film. And then I think even I think it was 9th or 10th grade in high school, another one of my friends had he just mentioned it or something. I was like, oh yeah, that film. Like,
Yeah.
I remember that. And all my other friends were like, probably behind my back, being like, dude, don't talk about the Thing all the time. You're gonna open up.
Yeah.
He's just not gonna stop talking about it.
Right.
But my one friend had bet. He's like, I guarantee like you could not watch that movie like every day of the school year because we rode the same bus there and back, and we sat at the same table at lunch, and I was like, no, I'll prove you wrong, man.
Whoa.
Like I got my iPod. There's iTunes that exists. I can download it on my phone and watch it like anywhere I go. And I kid you not, like I'm not lying. I had like watched the film that year, according from what I remember, like 237 times.
Good gosh.
Like
Oh my
we would
God.
start it in the morning. He'd see, I'd be like, I'm watching the film. I have my
Yeah.
earbuds in, and I'd watch it on the way back. I'd watch it at lunch.
That is awesome.
I was just absolutely in love with this film. Now, is it actually 237? I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just telling. Like, I watched it so much that year, and then I think I had just not watched it for like years since because I used to know all the lines.
Yeah.
Like, or they'll say a line now when I was watching it last night, and I'd be like, oh, isn't this like the flamethrower moment? Or is this the first goddamn week away? Like, just
Yeah.
those, and it's like, I already know it. So at this point,
Is
Oh.
there a Thing convention? Do you want to start it?
I don't know if I do a Thing convention. If someone asked me, though, in like 20 years or so, do you want to be a part of a Thing movie? Like, I'd totally do it.
Wow.
I would love to. I think at the time when I went to film school, it was like, one of the things that I'd love to do besides like on a Star Wars project would be like, dude, I'd love to make another Thing. But like there's not too many different beats you could do. reference 2011 one, but
What if the thing gets off Antarctica? I mean, I don't know.
yeah, 27,000 hours, and then it's all doom and gloom from there.
That's not very long. So, initial thoughts, or are you?
I think at the time
good.
I was really, my first thoughts when I watched it, of the few times I watched it in 7th grade, was I was always kind of fascinated that one particular instance in this film, and I think that's really when the whole conflict kind of stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the part of the film when you're not watching Mccready. Like, they introduced the idea that he could be the thing. And I was like, whoa, they just took its main character and they just turned this into a scenario where, he actually might be the thing. We didn't see him at this time when the lights went off and and Fuchs dies. He's probably dead. And Mccready was the last one. The power goes out. They find the clothes. They cut him off.
Yeah.
You're not with him.
Right.
And you're like, oh God, he actually could be the thing. And then he breaks back in and he's got the dynamite. And I was like, I don't think.
But he's fighting for his survival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had not seen I was 7th grade. I hadn't seen too many different movies at that point. But I was like, I've never seen a film that had done that with its main character. I was like, that impressed me.
Right.
A lot.
Something that kind of comes to mind, at least, it's not the greatest comparison, but something that comes to mind is Psycho, where halfway through the film, just spoilers for Psycho, the main character dies, and you're just like, oh, now we're focusing on completely different characters, and it's just like, yeah, but I've never made. It's hard to think of any film ever that just makes you doubt the main character to the point where it's like he could just be he could be the antagonist of the story now.
Yeah, and I think that really impressed me, and into the whole paranoia of the group.
Right. That's a big word you just used right there.
Yes.
I mean, it's the whole reason the movie is so exciting.
Because I don't know what kind of film you call it or what kind of the thing was, but it's like, it's basically, when it gets to the meat of the whole thing, it's one location, bunch of dudes stuck there with this thing that you can't tell if it's taken over your buddy or not.
Exactly. And he looks like your buddy, talks like your buddy. You have all this history.
Yes.
And how are you going to ruin that? How are you going to go against that programming?
Yeah. Like, you have that scene with Gary is like, I've known, Hopper? Or no,
Bennings.
I know Bennings my whole life.
I've known him for 10 years.
He's my friend. And he's like, yeah, that's not him anymore, man.
We gotta burn him.
That's a dangerous villain, dangerous monster that looks like your best friend. Wow. So, is that going to wrap it up for your initial thoughts, you think?
I'd say so. I think the last thing I'd mention is, I don't know if this would be the time to bring it up or later, but there's also the PS2 game.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to talk about that.
And, I had a PS2 when I was in 7th grade, and I had bought that, and I fell in love with the game.
Right.
I still have never beaten it because I think you need a flamethrower to beat the game.
Right.
Because you can't kill it without it. And
What,
I ran out of fuel, and that's as far as I got. Whatever part that was, but...
You need an actual flamethrower in real life?
Oh, not in real life, but in the game, you need to find enough fuel to burn the bigger ones that aren't just a head running around or something. But yeah, that was a really fun game, and that kind of fueled my further the thing love, because it's like, oh, now I can play I'm in the story of it,
Exactly, and it's a kind of newer type of story-ish, right?
Yeah, the game acts as a sequel to the '82.
Perfect, which is a lot of fun. All right, Raj. When did you first hear about the film, and what are your initial thoughts?
It might have been something like Watch Mojo, where it's like, oh, The Thing. This is one of the scariest movies ever made. And I must have watched it around my teens. I can't tell you, because I've watched this film multiple times, and just every time, I love the film so much. It's one of the greatest horror movies ever. And like I said in the teaser last time, one of the greatest Lovecraftian stories ever made. That isn't inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay.
But it's not taken from one of his books, but you can definitely feel a Lovecraftian influence in it. God bless the crew, but a special shout out to Rob Bottin, the special effects artist. He put so much work and effort into it. He there would be days where they're working on the film, and he would just sleep in the set just to
I think it was for a full year straight.
Oh yeah, and it was after it was all done, he had to go to the hospital just to make sure he was mentally all right.
I believe he was 22.
Yeah,
also.
somewhere around there. And it's
so
just
young.
Yeah, Rob Bottin, he did a lot of stuff. He did. I think he designed the RoboCop costume, and he did other things.
I know he previously worked on The Fog with Carpenter.
The Fog. He'd done things like that. But yeah, like I think he got. Oh yeah, he did Legend. He was the special effects makeup
with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I think
the
3
devil.
years later. Yeah.
The devil with big old horns. Oh, I love that movie. In the pie, they're in the pie.
Yeah,
Such a good movie.
But yeah, like Rob Bottin put his heart and soul into this film, and this film is great. It's awesome, but it also makes me sad considering it's such a failure financially.
Financially, it is a failure.
Same weekend as Blade Runner, and they both bombed.
And E.T. came beforehand.
That's it. E.T.'s a killer.
I just find it funny that even critically, it wasn't even well received at the time. Probably given because of the E.T.
Right. Yeah, because you have a good alien, you have a positive alien story, and you have a negative alien story. It's like
hugely negative.
Yeah, hugely negative. Like, we're gonna kill you, alien. And then E.T. is just, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. We my kind. I'm lost.
When you're watching dudes' bellies open up, eating people's arms,
and then with his hands.
I don't quite know how John Carpenter feels about the film today. Like, maybe he thinks it's a good film, but maybe because of the reception it got, maybe makes him feel bitter towards it. I know he heard from the director of the original film, and like the director was making fun of John Carpenter's version. It's like it's just a advertisement for J&B, and like I think John Carpenter took that pretty badly. It was just like, oh.
I would feel by now. I mean, the amount of I think in the thing, the terror takes shape, the documentary. When that documentary was made in the 90s, like he seemed, at least then, like I don't know how he feels now, and I wonder how he feels now, even after. I mean, COVID's still happening.
Yeah.
But especially when you had like lockdown and people staying in their homes, and the sickness that you won't know until later if you have it. You know?
Yeah, a couple weeks later.
But the remnants of distrust within a community, and there was a line he says in that doc where the end doesn't come, like, because this was part of his, what is now known as his like Apocalypse trilogy of The Thing, The Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness. And I wonder if that was just an area where he was just so, I think just John Carpenter in general is just kind of like a straightforward nihilistic dude.
Right.
His opinions are usually like, nope, I hate that. Nope, that sucks.
Yeah.
This is how the world is, type of thing.
He definitely has a negative view.
His line in that was like, the end doesn't come from bombs, it comes from within. Like, our apocalypse won't come from like a world war, it'll come from the division of others and of not trusting each other in our communities. And of recent political climates, I think that's kind of what's been happening these last few years. Not to get into like all that, but that's
that's a good point.
I think it's very evident that that's happened.
To get through all this, we're gonna work as a team.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna work against each other, we're gonna like just repeat history and just kill each other off until we're all dead.
Can't be stated enough. Greatest performance by a dog ever.
Yes.
Okay.
Just the way that dog is just.
Didn't like seeing it.
Well, it's according to that doc. Also, it's a half wolf, half dog. So it's stare that it would do. Because I always was like, that's like how they train that dog to just do that. That stare, not like even just not move when it's sitting in the kennel.
Like when it goes into the kennel, Clark even just looks at it. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, and the actor of Clark was even like, there's moments when that dog would just have this moment where it stops and stares, and if it did that, for the most part, when it was not in the acting of it, means that it was like mad, and it was just like like just take it easy, because it's that wolf side of it that he was saying that you had to just be cautious, but once it grew to love you,
just every time like it just cuts to it, it's just like you just know it's planning something or just thinking about how to proceed, and it's just. When you get to the kennel scene, it just culminates, and you're just like, "Oh God, they should have killed this dog way earlier."
Yeah. Okay.
I had catched a film viewing of it, like on 35 millimeter at the Cleveland Cinematheque a while back.
For real?
Yeah. And I think like a decent amount of the audiences had not seen the film.
Oh boy.
And I think there was quite a few dudes
Did
who
they eat
brought their wives or their girlfriends or their sisters.
See
or
what I
something.
mean? See what I mean
And it
about
gets
not
to
a
the
date
dog
movie.
scene.
Yeah.
That wouldn't. Yeah, it's not. Unless they love horror.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to that, and I always give I think when I had our coworker Joe watch the film recently, I was like, hey, be cautious. I don't know if you want to see what happens to this dog, but as soon as you start hear growling, if you don't want to see something nasty happen to a dog, don't like just close your eyes. But eventually, like you're gonna have to watch that. Like
Right.
you can't. That's like a whole 10 minutes. You shut your eyes, but
Oh yeah, just that's the hardest scene to watch. It's just misery with harming dogs getting harmed, and you're just like, oh god.
yeah, you hear the dudes and the ladies in the viewing just go like, oh god, like just they start like oh, and
One of the
that was
things
great.
one of the things I love about this film is just how people might consider this film to be a slasher film. I don't consider it to be that. I feel like it's just something beyond that, because the thing, it's not like it's doing like gory kills and whatnot. It's just kind of like sneaks up on you and just kind of absorbs you into its like collective. There's this one great little moment at the end after Blair has, overtaken Gary. I don't know if you guys noticed this. Just when he starts dragging Gary away, his hand, Blair's hand, is like fused into Gary's face, and it's just dragging away. And it was, that is awesome. That is so cool looking.
All right. So, are you all set with your initial thoughts then, Raj?
I might be, but
Okay.
oh my god, there's so much to talk
I feel
about.
like it kind of just went right into the interpretation.
Well, not interpretation. There's, we might have. We might have talked about that.
So, if I can take it from here, my first time I've seen this film, probably on cable. Seeing all the gory, because I'm on HBO or Cinemax, one of the two, because we had both grown up, and they're kind of the same channel. Might have even been on Showtime, maybe.
Could have been possible.
Because back in the day, early 80s, I'm talking like 84, 85, I can remember back that far. My dad used to have an antenna pointed at the terminal tower from our house. They had a direct line of sight. And then through that antenna, we could pick up Showtime if we just like turned on the antenna and turned it on at a certain frequency. And we would get all these movies. And I'm sure I've had to have seen it then, because it was probably on cable. And I think after a year, it would go on cable, right? So thinking about 82, so 83, 84, it definitely had that. I think that's where I might have seen it. I don't think I watched the whole movie, just probably some of it, because it's always been a movie I've known about and seen before, and like can't pinpoint the exact time, but I did sit and watch it after I bought the 2002 video game, because it came with a copy of The Thing. So that's when I like first sat down, start to finish, checked out the movie, loved the movie, didn't want the movie to end. It was like a quick movie. I don't know how many minutes, but 109 minutes. But I wanted more. Played the video game, same thing. Got to a part where I couldn't, same thing. Couldn't get past, and then put it down because there's other stuff. But I loved it. I loved how they did it. Loved the game. Loved the movie. Loved it. And I wanted more. And then there isn't much more. And then 2011, but I don't know if I've ever caught that. I know you gave me a copy. I haven't gotten to watch it. All right. So my initial thoughts on The Thing is, why is Mac in charge? That's my only question. Like, why does he get to be the guy calling the shots? I mean, the other guy that shoots these are just my questions, really. That shoots the Norwegian. That's
Gary.
Gary, right? I thought he was the boss. But
Well, at a certain point, you can't trust him because he was one of the few people who could get into the blood.
Right.
At that point, they can't really trust Gary.
I
But
think they kind of worked as a group until the blood bit, and then
Yeah.
that's when Gary was like,
That's
"I'm
where
putting the
everyone-
gun down." Yeah,
but like Mac's in charge. Like everyone listens to Mac.
It-
Mac
Mac
calls
is,
the shots.
it's
like,
Kurt Russell.
yeah, I know, and I understand that.
and,
But
and
like
it's also like he's one of the few people who's like calm and collected, and is like
sure,
and like people will listen to.
because he's more
And when
assertive.
and more assertive. And he's
Okay.
like when what is it, Norris? Yeah, Norris. When Norris is like asked, and he's like, I don't know if I'm up to it. Mac is like the only one willing to take charge, even though he's like the one guy who before he was completely uninterested. But when it's something where it's like, this is really serious, it's like, okay, I have to step up and take charge.
Excellent.
Because when Childs tries to go for it,
Yeah.
people are going like,
Okay, so he's just a natural leader, and everyone just kind of like. I think
He-
that says something. Okay, to me, it's a lot like the movie Clue. Because because they're like, who's the killer? And they're like, and then they split up.
Oh yeah.
They split up in this movie. The fade to blacks are kind of weird because they're like, I don't know.
I think
seems
it's
like
kind
time,
of like a lot of older
Yeah.
films will do that.
It just
it's-
kind of seems like there's like time that, it seems like time
I can't
passes.
even
Yeah,
recall a
that's-
modern film that kind of does that.
Right.
I know
Narrative-wise.
there's a story about how when the film came out, the editor was made fun of by other editors because I guess that was almost like a out of date like form of editing or something.
Yeah. And then it reminded me of playing the game Half-Life.
Mm-hmm.
I played the original Half-Life on my computer, my Pentium 2, and the
Wow.
face huggers,
Yes,
those
that jump at you.
yeah,
It's-
and
mhm.
just get me every time.
Mm-hmm.
Just that little head that grew spider legs. Like I hated how everything grew spider legs. Creeped me out.
You
like
gotta
watching.
be effing kidding me. Or-
That's the most well deserved like F-bomb drop ever.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, yeah. Just like and then they it's a close up of everything growing out of everything. It's just like so puts you.
That scene in the kennel when like those like legs start
yeah.
growing out of
Yeah,
dogs.
everything- yeah, everything's-
That's one of the most impressive things for me. It's just like the fact that it has like little spikes or something out of it.
Right.
And you're like, ugh.
The goo, the hands getting eaten by the
that flower
chomping-
thing that opens with all the dog
Oh,
teeth
gosh.
inside made
Yeah,
of
it's
dog
just
tongue.
so
spider.
many gory imagery, and it's all practical, and it's all like filmmaking, like finding out how to solve problems to make it all work and all look right. I mean, hats off, 100%. You can't do this today. They would, it would be probably super expensive. And nobody knows how to do it anymore. It's all through computers, I'm sure. I mean, sure, there's people that are purists that
I'd say
definitely.
that, there's definitely
Some people
James
around.
Wan loves a lot of practical. Like he fuses practical and CG when it comes to his horror, but
Okay.
there's still
Yeah.
like horror stuff out there. But
I might have said the wrong thing there.
There's
That's
there's
fine.
also like more indie developers. There's not indie developers, but there's indie like directors out there. What was it? The Void? It came out a while ago.
I
They're-
remember that one. Yeah.
But that's like a lower budget indie thing, I believe.
Okay.
If
uh,
you I guess you probably throw Hereditary in there. That's practical
Yeah.
for the most part, I believe.
Okay.
It seems.
See, this is good. This is what I need to know, because I'm not in tune with like all the stuff.
Although
So
with
that's good.
Hereditary, it's not like bodies
not
morphing and things like that.
So-
If you're just talking practical and horror, yeah, but
And then I just want to talk about the composer. That'll be my last thing.
Ennio Morricone.
Yeah.
the legend.
Yes,
R.I.P.
absolutely. I totally heard the connections between that and A Hateful Eight, and
Yeah, if you go pick up a vinyl of it or a CD of the soundtrack, all of a sudden you might be like, wait, I heard that in Hateful Eight.
right.
Yeah, so for any who are not aware, a lot of the soundtrack, I believe, did not get used in The Thing. Ennio Morricone made this whole score, and a lot of it didn't get used. So Quentin Tarantino, he got a hold of the soundtrack and just started using it for The Hateful Eight.
Okay.
Because Ennio I think he did the score, I think, for Hateful Eight. 'Cause
Yeah.
He did the overture and everything for
You
that.
can
which-
totally see it.
yeah.
And one super last thing, one thing PPS, Dean Cundy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. We got a shout out to him and all his great work. And this is just another example of.
Yeah.
And I just saw him on the Book of Boba Fett, his episode, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think he shot quite a few on that show so far.
So it's awesome. He's still around, and awesome work.
Special shout out to John Carpenter. John Carpenter, if you ever hear this, which you probably won't, but if you ever hear this, I am so sorry we weren't ready for your movie back in the 1982. I'm sorry it was a flop. You deserve to have had a better career than, everyone just kind of hating this movie. It did not deserve all the hate.
Okay. And then that's going to lead us into our interpretation. So Tom, take it away on interpretation.
Well,
Your interpretation.
at least kind of similar to what I had mentioned earlier, that kind of paranoia, the distrust within the group. Now, I think in 7th grade, I don't really think I had anything life experience or I paid attention really to what was going on in the world to really connect it with.
Right.
But at least at the time, even reading up into it, that, the Red Scare that was back from the 50s to 80s, which I think even the original 50 film
Right.
has a bit of that, like the fear of communism.
There you go.
So I think that kind of plays a part in the AIDS. I mean, like the AIDS scare, because that was happening. The epidemic of HIV.
Mm-hmm. HIV was big. I mean, it was rampant.
And at least I could probably say for my interpretation now, which having still, we're still going through the effects of COVID, that I think it probably now and after many years of more life experience in 7th grade, I just think the distrust and the tearing apart of one another from friends and family when something is introduced that causes these folds and foils between one another. I think it's just way more evident to me now than it was when I was in 7th grade. So I guess that'd be my kind of interpretation.
That's well said. Do you think that knowing about this film and knowing what happens kind of helped you prepare for something that's kind of happening in this world right now? Do you think it kind of helps you process what's going on?
I don't know if helping me process or... Because in one way, I mean, its process of elimination was just kind of like death,
Yeah.
Because once someone had turned, there's no going back. And I guess more so in the political landscape of today, I think it's kind of a lot of evidence, or kind of like, why, kind of a weird link to this, but in Tool's music, Fear Inoculatum, that's injecting of fear within a community and the distrust, and, that... I think that all this kind of stuff kind of goes hand in hand. I hope that doesn't mean I'm just becoming into a nihilist, but it's certainly something that as I'm getting older, I'm not that old, but as I'm seeing the world more with older eyes, I mean, I think from that nihilist inside that hopefully doesn't just take over, but I've noticed kind of what that film's been saying more and more.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, Roger, you want to take it, your interpretation of...
Yeah, just to kind of add on to what Tom was saying, infections, things like that. As you were saying it, I was kind of thinking the only real way to understand the disease or whatnot is by taking a blood test or analyzing, people's blood and things like that, which kind of relates back to, how you would test diseases these days as well. And, yeah, one of the scariest things, while the thing is scary, I think some of the more terrifying things to me is just how everyone, turns on each other, just are willing. Yeah, the scene when everyone thinks Mccready is the thing, and, they're just desperate to kill
The doubt
him.
runs quick. It's immediate of a shift of how they feel based upon just even one person's...
The only way he got out of it was if you kill me, I'm going to blow up this dynamite, and it's just they were so desperate that if he didn't have any way of defending himself, they would have killed him. And Childs is going, you have to sleep at some point, Mccready. And he goes I'm a real light sleeper, Childs. And it's just almost the way everyone treats each other is almost as terrifying as the thing itself.
Well,
the immediate distrust as soon as some kind of source already is saying, hey, this guy's turned. But the other person's not there to back it up, but they already immediately believe.
That's the thing. It's they're so quick to turn on people. And that speaks a little bit, I don't want to say this, but human nature is very, you're very selfish as far as your inner thoughts. You're trying to protect yourself. Even when you're trying to protect other people or look like you're protecting other people. I'm going to speak like me, I guess. I'm not going to generalize. It kind of says a little bit about who I am. But, I understand self-preservation, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I think this movie talks about that kind of stuff.
There's even that one moment when they're doing the blood test. And,
nobody wants to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody wants to die.
Palmer, after the Palmer incident where he turns and attacks everyone, there's that moment where, Mccready gets back to testing the blood, and he looks at Null, and, he's testing Nulls, and even Nulls looks afraid. It's I don't know if I'm the thing. It's just even that fear where it's you might even start questioning yourself. It's just terrifying all the way through.
You just don't know what's out there. Mm-hmm. And with the whole thing coming from outer space, mm-hmm. I'm sorry, it's all things are on the table. Everything's on the table as far as what this thing can do.
And that might even be a point as well. It's just we don't know what's out there because after this he made Starman,
right?
John Carpenter did, but it's we don't know what's out there. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be really, really bad, and it's just all these all these scenarios,
Right.
all these possibilities, and some of them are not good.
Right. So I've got, for my interpretation, I think you got paranoia as a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Paranoia of your neighbors. That they look like normal people, they act like normal people, but are they normal? You never know. You never know.
Or by or even your definition of normal versus the neighbor's definition of normal towards you.
Exactly. I could be weird. For sure. Definitely big on trust. They say trust in this film, and trusting your gut, be like that's a real person. You have to do that in this film, or else like why would Mccready pick these certain people, like because he can follow their footsteps and he knows that they're not infected or whatever, because they couldn't be, because they just in the right place and wrong. Like he ties up a certain amount. Like those guys get tied up. You come with me. Like he knows. He's trusting his gut, or his thought process.
Can't trust anyone, but we especially can't trust these 3 people.
Exactly. That's so crazy. And then they're tied up next to the guy that's deforming.
Oh, it's terrifying.
It's so on the edge of your seat. I know.
Just everyone screaming.
Boy.
Specifically, I just think of Child screaming.
Right.
Specific. He just has some really good screams in there.
Oh boy. And then I'm going to speak to the Cold War.
Yes.
But I'm going to talk about spying. Because definitely it's happening. I'm sure there were spies in our country, and I watched The Americans. And you know what I mean? Like they look like Americans, they talk like Americans, but they were secretly sending information back to the communist country, to Soviet Union. So I think that was happening in this time. You brought up the HIV, which is awesome. Not awesome, but I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I think that kind of really comes in, and specifically the blood scene.
Right.
But
Right.
That was happening.
Sure, I think it was the beginning of it. It happened like a little bit
Carpenter,
later.
he ended up making They Live. It's not like putting political undertones. That one's quite literal, but that one's through aliens again.
Yeah.
It's kind of like his use of aliens as his way to say what he's been trying to say.
And then Fear of the Unknown. Which
Fear of the Unknown.
Which is like, if you don't know, we don't know what's going out there and we're just a small part of this entire universe, and we're not in charge. Newsflash. It's not. We're not the dominant species sometimes.
Sometimes the scariest thing you can ever experience is just the stuff that comes up in your head.
Absolutely.
Just what you make up.
Absolutely.
Which I think this film does especially well.
Absolutely.
You think sometimes you might just look at the gore in this film, and you just maybe your brain makes it worse when you remember it or something.
Right. So that's going to lead us to some behind the scenes. Anything that you have to add to that we haven't really discussed?
I guess there's really 4 things. I guess a little bit more some of the behind the scenes of some of the effects, like the dog one. I think there's a great combination of not only obviously having the actual physical thing made, but there's a combination of animatronics, the stop motion, and even puppetry. And the dog one is one I think where Rob Bottin obviously had helped create it, but Stan Winston had helped in that. And I always kind of thought it's never really stood out to me the first time I watched it. But like at the end, you can tell there's the stop motion tentacles and stuff. At least when it pulls down that dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
But in the dog scene, when it's already changed.
How many times? Like 137?
Stan Winston came in because Rob Bottin was just so tired.
Yeah,
okay. He was exhausted from all the work he was doing.
So when the dog's head kind of like they do this big shot of the dog as it's sitting on the ground, and its head comes towards, and that's when it opens and does the screech. That the movement of that was like, that's not stop motion, that's not animatronics, it's just like his hand through the head. So when it gets shot and it does this quick reaction back and like looking back at the people, I was like, oh, that totally is a puppet. That's just his hand going back and forth. And I think that balance throughout the entire film is such a showcase of all these talented people coming together for it. And especially when it got to the stomach scene. I think one of my favorite things that I found out was Hopper, the doc, right? Mm-hmm. He puts his hands in the stomach.
Yeah.
Well, what they had actually done, and I thought this was really clever. And like I would have probably just used a dummy, but they ended up just they found a guy whose arms had been cut off because of an accident.
Right.
So when Hopper, you get the close-up of his face when he yells, when his arms are cut off. But what they'd done is they made a mold of his face and made a mask out of it and put it on this guy who didn't have arms, I think, past the forearm or wherever. And he's the one with the mask on that goes back in the shot, as I just physically went back from the mic. And he goes back, and you see this guy with arms cut off. And if you look really closely, you can tell it's like something on his face.
No way.
But I thought the dedication to make that a real person falling back was just incredible.
As a filmmaker, I mean, is there any great, I mean, knowing how they did it, do you just applaud or are you just in awe?
Yeah. I stand up, applaud, shout. Obviously, it's clear the love that I have for this film is obviously immense.
Yeah.
But then there's even like the unused effects that they had in the film. Like at the very end, you know how like it comes out of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, originally, and I think Carpenter cut it because he just thought the stop motion just looked too stop motion-y. That or it's kind of still for like it's not really moving once it does this, but it pops out of the floor and that dog that comes out of the middle, it initially like got out and it was just like snaking on the floor, and they had this wide shot and they'd built the whole room as a miniature, and it was just stop motion like standing there as the dog thing jumps out, and that's also now just sitting there. And I think it was more so of it just sitting there that Carpenter's like, well, I want it to look like it's doing something, so let's just get this quicker, and he blows it up and end the film.
Okay.
But I thought that was cool. They put all this work to make this miniature set, and the thing even like jumps out of it, and it's still connected by this long thing, And I thought that was just incredible. Or even the making of the spaceship and how practical that was, and it still had like light up lights in it by, I forget her last name, but I know the model maker Susan. Like just incredible work, like all across the board on it.
Raj, stories behind the story.
Well, I do know, like, unfortunately this movie bombed, and this kind of led to a downward, not a downward spiral, but this began Carpenter's nihilism or cynicism towards Hollywood. This was the first, this was a major hit for him. I mean, not like a hit, like success, but it's more like a hit in the gut or something. But behind the scenes stories, when the dog is walking around and the very superstitious song is playing, and the dog walks into that one room where there's some guy, and he looks back. That is not an actor. That is just one of the crew members, so that we as the audience can't really tell who it is. It's just adding into the paranoia of like, who was that? Who was it? Was it Norris? Was it Palmer? Apparently, John Carpenter kept the set very cold, so that
he'd refrigerate the sets.
He refrigerated the set so that everyone would be miserable. Yeah, everyone would still kind of be miserable. It's like we're not in Antarctica or whatever, but we're still feeling the effects. And there was one more. Yeah, apparently every time. There's two more actually. Apparently they kept the props away from the actors, so that when people would see the Thing monsters and whatnot, it would be the first time seeing it. Kind of like Alien when the chestburster comes out. It was their first time seeing it, and it was like in this movie as well. It's like the first time the actors would see it, and it was genuine reactions as well. It's like, oh God, it's terrible.
Well, that's cool. That's a cool way to do it.
And apparently the actors didn't know who the Thing was. It's like they would all act normally, and then they would get fed the script a little bit every time, and then when they got to when it came to their scene to be revealed, it's like, oh God, okay, so it was you, okay.
Yeah.
So that's how the actors go about it. It's like they're discovering the Thing, the actors are discovering what the Thing is right when the characters are as well.
All right. My only story behind the story is kind of like after the story or post story. After the film was out, I had to go up against E.T., which it completely could not keep up. So, and that year, when something like that comes out, I'm sure it dominates the award ceremony. So I was surprised that it was not nominated for any Oscars. I know that's not like the benchmark for like filmmaking, but like as far as like appreciating the craft, like I don't think there's any higher award ceremony that that you could be a part of. And they were like completely snubbed. completely.
How many horror films have been nominated for Oscars?
I don't know.
I wonder, that's probably a good question.
But if anyone should have been, I think this one should have been. Because, I mean, it was just, like, hands down, just the craft. I mean, just, come on. Like,
Well,
just
Hollywood-
give us something. The score, even. Come on.
The Oscars hate.
Well, that got a Razzie, I think.
A Razzie?
I think.
For worse?
Yeah, I think.
The
Like
Oscars hate horror films. They absolutely despise horror films, and they don't want to include them at all. It's
Look,
like
why have a movie? Why have an award ceremony and not include a whole genre of film?
because
It's all
also
about the
people
money and appearances.
and people hated this film. They didn't want to go back and look at it. They didn't want to see the gross film. They didn't want to give this movie credit.
What about like having a category where like, oops, that one slipped the cracks? Oscar. Let's give that one like a cult classic.
I do know that
Oscar. I don't know. Am I thinking way out of line here? You tell me.
I do know they have like legacy awards. Like I think David Lynch got one sometime later or something like that.
Okay.
It might not be David Lynch, but it was someone. Yeah, I think Hollywood doesn't quite care for John Carpenter, even though he made some of the greatest films ever.
Okay.
But John Carpenter's also not one to hold his tongue about anybody.
Yeah.
I think you
Okay.
can find interviews where he dogs Lucas, Spielberg, Palma, like all of them.
Good. Everybody has a
you're-
voice.
Yeah, you have your own voice.
yeah.
It's just very interesting.
I saw
back at the time him just dogging on him. And
It's
it's
all
like,
right. I
damn.
mean,
I
George
saw-
Lucas doesn't have an Oscar, like literally for anything, like other than a great job 20 years later type
I
of
just
award.
have $4 billion to spend the rest of my life with from the.
from Star Wars
Disney.
acquisition.
It's not about the award. It's about like the recognition that these people are like pioneers in their industry. And
Although,
how do you not award them for that? I don't know.
to what you were kind of saying, Tom, I remember I saw a John Carpenter interview where he was talking about like, he was friends with this one guy at a certain time in life, and I can't remember who it was exactly. It's a filmmaker, but it's like as time went on, the guy became more and more successful, and it's like he became more in love with himself, and John Carpenter was just kind of not into that. He was just like, it feels less genuine. You feel less genuine, and you're feeling. It's just somebody where it's like he doesn't like the Hollywood system at all, and he's very, very against it in a lot of ways, and he's cynical.
How about this? Instead of like an awards, how about the Oscars? Let's just start something. How about like a Hall of Fame? We start like a Hollywood Hall of Fame or something, and if that's the case, then this film should be like in it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
You
think
know?
the Academy themselves just started like a museum, but I don't know if they have films that didn't win or nominated in there. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I haven't really looked into it.
I do know that Hollywood has the like library of the most important films. or
Sure.
something.
Yeah. And then the Congress one.
Yeah, the Library of Congress.
Yeah, Library of
yeah.
Congress.
I guess that's
Reserve.
like a Hall of Fame, but
I
like,
wonder if it's in there. I don't know.
yeah.
I
that'd be
would
cool.
hope. I would hope that that something related to John Carpenter is in there.
All right. So, Tom, the moment you've been waiting for. How can you make this film better?
I think when watching it, I generally, on Letterboxd, if you find me on Letterboxd, shout out. But to me, I have such, and my definition of a perfect movie, obviously differs from person to person, and
Absolutely.
obviously, no, I don't think any movie's entirely perfect, because there's moments in this movie when you have too many moments, I think, of a hesitation. But I can't say I've been in a moment where I see something morphing in front of my eyes that I've never seen in my life that then kills me. So I can't speak on Window's behalf, but there's definitely some moments, or like they walk off alone at the end, Niles and Gary, and it's like, why'd you do that? Don't do that. But so much of the movie does things so well that I think for the most part, if I watch a movie where I'm like, I'm really enjoying this, I'm loving it, I can usually kind of just forgive things like that, because it's like, look, I know you need to have a monster moment, so just have the guy walk away, have the monster moment, do the cool effect. Because at the end of the day, this type of film, it's like, you were watching it for the paranoia, but we're also watching it for the monster moments. And it's like, if we got to get a monster moment by killing off Gary, you can kill Gary.
Yeah.
Plus,
It
they
might
were,
be really dumb, but get the monster moment that looks really epic.
plus they were setting up charges at that scene, right?
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean-
could kind of excuse Gary. Niles does seem like a bit more. I guess there was a bit better. There was a more like appropriate death for Niles or something in the script, but I guess that got cut. But with Gary, I can kind of believe it. With Knowles, maybe not so much.
Yeah, there's, I think like the window's just not blasting, just standing there. But it's not. It doesn't lessen my experience of the scene. It's just kind of when I'm watching it, and I'm like, do something. But then like I can't speak on how I would be in that scenario. You know, I know people that the freeze, flight, or fight. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Plus he plus he did have a head injury at that point, so it's like maybe it could have been a factor or something. But it's just like,
But
you
like,
know,
overall, I mean, I don't know if it's just because I've seen it so much that I can't imagine it going any other way.
Okay.
Because it's like, usually if I watch a film for the first time now, I can be like, oh, I feel like I would have done this, or not just even story or technical, just even how like the act, just anything, you know. But I think when I think of this film, it's so ingrained as it is to me that I really can't think of a way that I would massively improve it. Because when I do, I'm like, wow, but they make you doubt the main character,
Right.
But then they get the little bit of the sci-fi of the ship, so you get the continuation that the alien had its own agenda. It wasn't just doing the person stuff; it was also finding a way to escape. And I'm like, it's doing all these things, and I'm like, I can't. Those moments of hesitation from the actors, like I can't really count that against it because it's doing all these other things so well.
We might have found our first perfect science fiction.
it's
film.
it's so beyond your understanding. Like when Palmer just jumps up to the ceiling, and
Oh
you're
my
just like,
goodness.
what, how? And you're just like dumbfounded, and it's just like his head is splitting open, teeth are forming, and you're just yeah, blasted, or your mind may not just may have trouble processing what you're looking at.
So, all right, Raj, how can you make it better?
I can't,
Okay.
Lito.
All right, enough said. And for this one, for me, I would I put in a female, and also the ship just kind of threw me because I'm like, Blair made a ship like that fast?
Yeah, he
We don't know how the thing thinks.
I know, and it's like, wow, like that was quick, in a whole tunnel and a
he
ship.
did not waste that time. Blair was efficient.
Yeah, while they're doing that blood test, I'm assuming that's when he's doing it.
Okay.
While he's in there.
Plus, we don't know when he got to work on it. It could be that he's been working on it all day or something.
He snuck all those metal parts down there.
And the parts are like, I thought they were blown up from the helicopter. That's all, like, not.
Well, there was
pick it too
Mccready's
much.
helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's true. Okay, cool. There was that one.
If you
the Norwegian one blows up.
Yeah.
If you want a female thrown in there, one, there already is. It's the chess wizard.
Sure.
Two, the 2011 version, main character is a female.
Okay, so there you go. She's just dead. Okay. That's fine.
That's a good question. I don't know how. I guess it depends on what she would do.
Yeah.
If it was already like.
Just nothing. Just be the comms officer instead of Windows. Like, just have it be a female. That's all. Just because there's other people, like, not just dudes get these jobs.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't 80s time. I don't know.
Understandable.
Like
You'd have to ask Carpenter. He's the one that I think in the doc he's like, I just wanted to make it more streamlined and not have any
romance. There's no
It's not about romance.
I know. I just that's
if
just
you
what
throw
Carpenter
in
said.
If you throw in the female, probably audiences would go like, why didn't you include a romance or something?
It doesn't have to have a romance. I'm just saying.
No, but I feel like people would go. It's just like people would think, oh God, there needs to be a romance or something, and it's just like you just exclude that factor entirely.
Which I think even the 2011 it doesn't really do a romance.
It doesn't. Like I said, it doesn't need. I'm just saying, just represent the other side of humans. But maybe one of those dogs was female. Who knows? Anyways, final thoughts.
Well, I guess would this be the area probably to mention the 2011 one in a little bit?
With recommendations, we'll do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would probably want to just thank, if I could, just all the cast and the crew that were part of that film.
That's
awesome.
For making that film. And I even in that doc where Rob Bottin's just like, hey, weren't you the guy who did the effects on the thing? And he's like, yeah. Or when there's probably people that whoever walk up to Carpenter now that thank him for the film. I would imagine so. Or the amount of people who obviously love this online and have come to love it through the ways of like how I saw it off of just YouTube, and how you saw it off of just like cable.
Yeah.
That's I'm just thinking, well, the film exists. I know
Exactly.
I know how hard it is to even make a film in the first place, it bad or good.
Right.
So I think it just existing, it makes it's sparked my imagination for literally years. So
Thank you for taking the time to thank them. That is an awesome thing to do.
Yeah, like it can't be stated enough. Like this film was made at a time where I don't think people were ready for it. It's just poor timing all around. Everyone involved should not feel ashamed for all the work they put into it. It's one of the greatest horror films ever, and I can't throw enough praise at it. There's so much we still haven't like talked about. This film is so quotable. There's so many times where it's just like when I was taking my notes for this film, I just kept writing down quotes because just the way lines are said or delivered, or just things I might have noticed.
Yeah, I think our goal here is maybe to start a discussion, you know, and have people discover films and rediscover them, and for other people. And, you know, like this doesn't have to be the end of this discussion. We could continue this online or whatever, or however you want to, or have another episode. You're right down the hallway if you ever want to come back.
And I really even think that the themes of the film still resonate.
Absolutely.
Even today, how we were talking
And
earlier.
they just hit all kinds of different
just
angles.
Just the scene when Wilford Brimley is destroying all the stuff in his quotes, where it's like, "That thing wanted to be us," or it's like, "I'll kill you," and he's like shooting. It's just the way he delivers it is amazing.
Yeah, all of Wilford Brimley. Wilford Brimley. I'm sorry.
Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting. But all those, he's just sitting there calmly, like, I want to get out. Like, just let me out.
He's the thing
you know,
at that
it's
point.
so
He is.
I'm
creepy.
all better now.
I'm
now
better
I'd like
now.
to
He
come
is
back and
he is
stay.
He throws in the man. Hey, man, I'm good.
He is
man.
he is totally the thing at that point.
Okay.
It is. I can't see it any other way. Like he would if he was still like.
You know what's great is like I'll rewatch the film after we talk about this. I've done this before, and like I'll appreciate the film even more.
Yeah.
Knowing your guys' angles and everything. So, my last thoughts. Were you finished, Raj?
I think I am.
Cool. Is question to you, Tom and Roger.
Okay.
You said that, and I got this from earlier. A question from you earlier. You took on the roles on your lunch table, like you and your friends.
Yeah, my friends. We kind of took on the name, like we for a bit.
I would
we'd play Xbox or something, and it'd be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, Windows," and my
Right.
friend who had the nickname of Windows given from the film would be like, "Yo."
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. Like I kind of did something with the Three Amigos like that when my lunch table in middle school.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, one was Chevy Chase, one was Steve Martin, and the other guy was Rick. Was it Martin Short, right? And then, anyways, how would you want to go? Like in this film, if you had to go and you couldn't be Kurt Russell and anybody that survived, who would you want to like? How would you want to go? Like, you know, what's your preferred death scene? Even the dogs, if you want.
Lighting a stick of dynamite and holding it up to it or something.
Okay.
I don't know. Blow up so it's instant. It's not. I don't know. Not feeling the bullet. Like there's not even enough time to
Right.
possibly feel the explosion. You just
Or being
dead.
ripped open.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Roger?
Well, hopefully not being ripped open.
Yeah.
Getting a revolver, dousing myself in gasoline, lighting a flare, then blowing my head off.
Oh no, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I don't want to be absorbed by the thing. This thing could probably
bad.
absorb my body after I'm dead. I'm not.
I don't. That's like the preferred way, and I understand what you're saying. Like, if you had to like choose one of the people that got killed in the film, and that's your way. So let's go back.
I would go
Clark.
Fuchs.
Huh? Clark? Which one's Clark?
Just shot in the head.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly
Not
what I would say.
orphan.
Yep, me too.
Not letting this alien touch me.
Right.
Since it's taken, I'll go Fuchs.
Fuchs?
It's terrible, but it's better than the thing.
But he's all in flames. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than being absorbed by the thing and having my essentially corpse
Right.
being like puppeteered by this thing.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I know you're right. Yeah, it's got to be quick. I don't want to just like waiting around to like get, what do they call it?
Assimilated?
Assimilated. Oh boy. Yeah.
And I don't even know I don't even quite know how assimilating works.
I know we took a dark turn. I'm sorry at the end here, but this movie, this is where.
It's
makes you
dark.
think
It's a
about.
dark subject matter and
Right.
things like that.
But I feel like we'd all agree that the ultimate way to kill it's with a flamethrower.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that
It's
is cool.
It's so
stuff.
lucky they had a flamethrower in that area.
And then that's the thing. It's like aliens use flamethrowers. Like
Flamethrowers are
Alien.
cool.
Alien. Yeah, very cool.
Fun moments of aliens at the end.
Yeah.
Attached to the gun.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that leads us into recommendations. Tom, like we ask you what your we're gonna do what you recommend, and then we'll come back and see what you're currently
Like, just
watching.
currently watching?
Yeah.
I would, if you really want more trapped in the snow with a monster that morphs, I would recommend the 2011. I would say don't hope. It's not as great, obviously, as the 82. But I think from a sound design, the atmosphere, the look, I think kind of just the feel of it. Yeah, the characters are dumb. So don't expect as smart as people as the 82.
Oh.
But I would say that it has its own little method of, like, it doesn't have a blood test, but it's got its own. It's not probably as cool, but it was a way I'm like, I didn't think about that. And then going from that same ideas that those ones bring up kind of changes my interpretation of the ending of the 82 one about who's human and who's the thing, if you go into the same route of the 2011.
Yeah.
But other films that I'd recommend that kind of have that same people trapped in a location, not sure who to trust. You got Hateful Eight, of course.
Of course.
Tarantino. You got Green Room. I don't know if you've seen Green Room, but you got this punk
Anton
band.
Yelchin.
Yeah, you got this punk band stuck at like this bar in the middle of like a woods, and Patrick Stewart and a bunch of these people play neo-Nazis, and they got to get out of there to survive because they witnessed something very bad, and now they're keeping them there, or they might kill them. You're not sure, but they got to escape. Obviously, Alien.
Okay.
I think people trapped in space.
Sorry to
they're
steal your
unknown.
thunder, bud. Yeah.
The Descent. I think that's a pretty good one. Trapped underground with these creatures, the unknownness at first until it's defined. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I think, is a given.
Right.
I'd heard you guys mention this on one of your previous episodes, and as I was kind of thinking of films that are similar, now this isn't trapped to a location, but you have a group of people trying to deal with this unknownness, and nothing they do can obviously fully stop it, but Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Right. I was just listening to that episode.
Yeah. I was thinking about, like, there's a bit of this unknown. Colin Farrell doesn't know what to do besides follow what the kid says.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not directly correlated, but I think there's kind of like a similar feeling in theme, maybe. It Comes at Night, which is a horror film that I remember seeing in theaters, and I think me and my friend were the only people that loved it in the theater because everyone else was groaning and hating on it when we were like, how are you hating this right now? But that's like a bunch of people stuck in a house when there was, I think, a pandemic in the world.
Wasn't it marketed as like a horror movie?
It was marketed wrong.
Yeah.
It was totally marketed wrong. But that was a film where you have these people that they don't know who's been infected by this disease, and that alters how you act and pretty much how you feel. If you're really going for all that all-out gore with practical effects, I'd recommend the Evil Dead trilogy.
Oh
yeah.
The first two being the trapped in one location.
I'm gonna clap, but
Yeah,
you don't want to ruin your audio.
You
Clap.
stole my
I'm sorry.
recommendation.
My,
it's
My
all right.
last recommendation. Now, this one's kind of a toughie because it depends if you're a fan of Gaspar Noé or not. And he makes pretty hardcore films. They're not really, I guess you could say horror, but it kind of goes into a bunch of different genres. But his film Climax, which I loved, but I do not recommend this one lightly because all of his films deal with very nasty people in very bad scenarios. But Climax, you have a bunch of these people that were practicing for this dance routine in this abandoned or this high school because there's a huge winter storm, and they're stuck in this high school, and then somebody drugs this punch, and they all start losing their mind.
Oh boy.
But in a similar fashion, and that film has very long takes, and it's shot very. It's a very uncomfortable experience, but similar kind of to the thing of you don't know who's going to do what at any moment. That's I don't recommend that to everyone, but I throw that recommendation in there if you're a fan of that kind of hardcore. It's very hardcore.
Wasn't Vanessa Hudgens in that? I thought I remember hearing something about that film.
She might be. I don't think so. This one,
I definitely feel like I've heard of this film. I
don't know if there's an English actor in it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Because Gaspar, yeah. But that would be my recommendations.
Okay. Raj?
Well, you brought it up, Lito, and I started thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, I guess Clue.
Yep.
I guess Clue is a good one. It's just like you don't know who to trust and things like that. But I guess my main recommendation would be Dead Space 1 and 2.
Great games.
Okay.
I think John Carpenter even stated, it's like, I wouldn't mind directing a Dead Space game, but at this point he's just done with directing, and he's just working on his music and whatnot, and that's fine.
A remake of Dead Space 1 I actually think is coming.
Oh,
by
yeah?
the same like it's pretty much looks the same, it's just very much updated for now.
Yeah, I'm nervous about the remake, but
It's pretty much just it's a huge graphical overhaul basically.
I hope it's just like that. I hope they don't change too much, but we'll see. Any other recommendations? No, I think that's it.
Okay. You guys pretty much hit all of mine, so I'm not going to repeat some of the ones you said. But you went, dark and deep with some of your recommendations, which thank you for going there. I don't even know some of the movies you talked about, but hopefully you just set some people on a cool path and these movies. So I'm going to lighten it up and say Men in Black.
Ooh.
The original.
Classic.
Yeah. And, they're movies about aliens, and you're just kind of, and there's one that's got, trying to just do his thing, and Men in Black are in his way,
It has a lot of great costumes, and
Yeah.
I don't remember how much of it. I know there's definitely fusing of CGI and practical,
Right.
but
Yeah.
A great use of practical effects from what I can remember.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Of all these different aliens and stuff.
Go ahead, Raj.
If do you still have any more recommendations? Just or
Not really. No.
okay. If I can make an anti-recommendation, I would not recommend the 2011 one. I think it had a poor story that relied on the special effects, and I think the studio really butchered it with the special effects. I can't really fault the filmmakers that much.
Yeah, because they had shot all practical, and then the studio decided for CG.
But you were saying, there's a revelation in that affects the 1982 version, and I think that affects the 1982 version in a very negative way, where it's like it's not ambiguous anymore. It's actually the story, the answer, and that was something John Carpenter never intended, and it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. But that's not saying anything against you, Tom.
Mhm.
It's just how I feel about the film.
See, I always thought Mccready was just human in general.
Oh, yeah.
As if that was gas in the bottle because he was making Molotov cocktails that no child drinks and doesn't react, and then he laughs. And I was like, oh, is he just the thing? But if you go by the metal earring, then they're both human. But
yeah, and that's something I wish that the 2011 version never brought up. But if you're gonna watch it, watch it. I just think that it affects the film in a negative way. And when asked if I wanted to change anything about the original, I feel no. There is so much I'd like to change about the 2011 version, but we can talk about that at a later date.
Sounds great. One thing I'm going to back up, and one thing I wanted to add to my final thought. Sorry to go backwards.
Go ahead.
But you just reminded me, and I'm going to say it because I don't want to hate myself later for not saying it.
okay,
I loved how Mccready's costume was. The cowboy hat and the
Oversized.
pistol.
the big goggles,
Oh my God, I love
the jacket within a jacket that spews out of.
So
his arm.
awesome.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
he's got the belt. He's the one wearing the holster, right?
Well, Gary is, I think, at first. I think
Okay.
he will later because
Okay.
he takes control.
Well, I think it just fits him perfectly. And he's got the sidearm. I mean, it's just, and then the bullets in the belt, like it's perfect Wild West.
In a weird note, I know I'm usually I don't usually get too many haircuts,
Yeah.
but usually when it gets to winter, I like to have the beard with the kind of flowing. And I know it doesn't look like Kurt Russell's, but every time I think about going outside when I have this exact hair length, I'm like, huh, kind of like it, but not really.
Look at you. That's so cool. What are you watching now, Tom?
Well, right now, my girlfriend and I, we've been going through all of Disney's animated, and I think we just have Encanto left, which, is the one that just recently.
Okay, Encanto. Yeah.
So we've been going through all the Pixar and all the Disney animated, like all, at least theatrically released in America, like 80-something movies, which a lot of ones I had not seen. Besides that, I just started kind of rewatching a lot of Scorsese's films recently, because, dude's a master. I had just gotten the Zatoichi Samurai Collection films, which it's about a blind samurai, and he's got from like 1961 to like 73 made like 26, like within 11 years or something, made like 26 films with the same guy.
Wow.
So I'm like, I've been kind of going through that, and that's just really cool. I mean, that's straight up just samurai action, but the samurai's blind. Like, that's just awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with Zatoichi. It's something I've heard about.
And I've been slowly chipping away at my Criterion Collection sets of Ingmar Bergman, Fellini, Wong Kar-wai. And I guess the most recent thing, I'm not usually one that watches too many new shows. I try to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm more so about the film experience than I am about the show. Nothing dissing shows, because there's a lot of fantastic shows out there. But the only current show I think I'm still watching is Book of Boba Fett, because
Okay.
Star Wars kid at heart. It's what I grew up on.
I don't blame you, dude. I do not blame you for that. All right. Yeah, and then Raj, close it out with what you're currently watching.
I watched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 again recently. I'm not going to have a lot to talk about. I think I might have mentioned last week, but I'll mention again. I'm replaying Doom Eternal. Really love that game.
Great
It's one of my most replayed games. I just keep going back to it. Really fun.
Cool. And I'm at a dilemma here. I don't know what I'm watching. Book of Boba Fett is pretty much it right now. But if I could take the time, there's a TV show I've been kind of wanting to talk about. So I'm going to just talk about that show that I've watched in the past.
For sure.
That, to me, is, I don't know, just totally gets me. And that's Barry.
Oh, phenomenal.
Oh my
I
gosh.
got to get back into it. I watched like the first couple episodes.
I absolutely love that Barry.
Oh, I love it. Season
and
2, episode 5.
It's
Probably one of the best.
Is that the one with the
30
little
minutes.
girl?
Yeah.
Because I was watching little story. While I was watching the final season of Game of Thrones, like I was angry. I was like not loving it at all. And then suddenly this episode comes on, and then you see like all this stuff with this little girl, and you're like this awkward action scene is going on, and I'm like, what is this? It's just one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen ever. And yeah, if anyone's looking forward to it, like if anyone's interested, check it out.
Okay, so I'm going to take the time to talk about Barry. I just love it. A hitman from Cleveland. How about that? Goes to
I
LA.
had a WMMS shirt, I think, in the first episode
yes,
or something.
That was so cool.
That was awesome.
The Buzzard. Like, I grew up with the Buzzard. That was me. Like, I bet you, like, anyways, you know, your dad knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. We have a sticker of WMMS.
Exactly. They're at my grandma's house all over the place. That's so cool. He goes out to LA to do a hit, and then he gets into the film business. Like,
the duality of having a career that's very in the spotlight to a job that he cannot be publicly seen.
Right.
Because he's a hitman, like
and all the hijinks
Great
that
combine.
ensues, his handler, and how like
Fuchs.
Mm-hmm. I love the story. I want to see more. I don't know where it's at. I don't know if they're still making it. It's still
Yes, season
okay.
3 is supposedly on the way.
It's beautiful, like story. So well, like just crafted. The bad guys are so like not so over the top, but like the bald guy with no eyebrows. It's been a while since I watched it, but
Also played that guy also played Zaz in Gotham, and he was one of my favorite parts of that show.
Yeah, what is
Anthony Kerrigan.
Yeah, what's his character name?
Ho Ho Hank.
Oh yeah, that's right.
No Ho Hank.
No Hank. He's
Yeah.
also, I don't know if you saw Bill and Ted Face the Music. He's the robot in that film.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Well, when
I
you get
want
there's
to.
a robotic assassin character. And
Okay.
That's
Apparently, there was a point where he looked normal, where he was like, he was just an average-looking guy, but then he just got this like disease or something, and it just lost all of his hair.
I want to rewatch this like right now.
it's quick.
Yeah, and Henry Winkler is
Yeah.
so great in it, and it's everything about it, and just like acting. It's kind of like an expose on how acting and actors kind of like have to like work on their craft, and it's so perfect of a show, and we need more.
I do know that
More's coming.
I do know
can't
that Bill
wait.
Hader is like notoriously like not hard to work with, but he just laughs a lot,
Okay.
and so I'm wondering like how many times does he like laugh while doing Barry, and like because I know that there are certain serious scenes, and it just makes me wonder.
Right.
He should make his own feature. After season 2, episode 5, I was like, give this guy a feature.
Wow. Yeah. It's just a wow. Yeah, I get it all, everything that's got going on, and I love the show, and I've been wanting to talk about it. And thank you guys for letting me take the time.
Oh, no problem.
One last show that I just thought to mind. I haven't watched the new season yet, and I don't even know how many people even really know about it because it doesn't really seem like a lot of people do. Roger, you might know, but Joe Pera on Adult Swim. You can watch the whole show, I swear, in like 3 hours most likely.
Whoa.
Because each episode's like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's so not something you've probably have seen. It's probably more, it could be like a YouTube show, but Adult Swim picks it up. But it's a show that is so, it looks at details of like ordinary life and kind of just takes in, like, you know how great just this thing is?
Yeah.
And it's something that most people probably overlook. But it's a very like lighthearted, I could probably show you an episode that I always show people.
Send it to me.
I own it on, Joe Pera Talks with You. Or I think now it's just Joe Pera does whatever. That dude's just awesome. I don't know. I'm curious how your reaction to the show is.
Okay.
It's probably something you're not expecting.
Okay.
Joe
but
Pera Talks with You. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really quick show that's like lightheartedness. I think it has a lot to say, and Joe Pera is just I think a really cool dude. I'd love to meet him and just hang out with him.
And if I can add to that, another show that I would want to speak out about that I don't know if a lot of people know about is Con Man, with the guy from Firefly. He's in the Alien.
Nathan Fillion?
No.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk. Yeah, thank you. I think that type of show as well, kind of like behind the scenes of how Firefly got back into movies and stuff, and how Alan Tudyk is in the he does the convention circuit, and kind of like that whole world. I think it's like a YouTube. I don't know if it's a YouTube, but like it was hard to find. Like it's only like 6 episodes. Nathan Fillion is in it, so that's another show that I want to kind of like let people know about that exists if they don't know about it. Yeah, it's very cool, very funny. You want to handle the tease there?
Oh, yeah. So our next film, if I can do a tease, it would be Natalie Portman, more like Natalie Boardman.
Okay. And then I want to take the time to say, Tom, if we ever lose the IMDb database, make sure you're alive, because I think you could probably rewrite it.
I think a decent portion probably.
Yes.
Maybe not.
Like Book of Eli style, like sit on the couch and, you just recite it, and we have IMDb, because anything I throw at you, not to I don't
want to toot the horn too much.
Right.
That would be a good science fiction film to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you for doing the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
This is a dream come true to have you and talk to you for like more than 5 seconds.
Yeah. No, we're usually always busy with work.
Exactly.
I know I'll probably come back on about something. I know you'd probably want to talk Star Wars.
No,
at some point.
I got plenty of Star Wars people. I want you to deep dive into Tom. What makes Tom?
That makes me even happier.
Yes.
Because I like Star Wars, but I love talking about many other things.
We can maybe just have a rambling episode where we just talk about things we like.
Or we can come back to the thing.
We can talk about the 2011 version.
Yeah. No. But we're in charge here. We do what we want. Okay. Mm-hmm. So whatever you will bring to the table is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'll see what. I'll try to find some like deep cut sci-fi ones like you probably not heard that I think you might love.
Okay, perfect. And once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'd like to meet your dad one day for sure. Just shake his hand and just tell him thank you.
For sure.
And Raj, any last words? All right. We'll see you out there. Have a nice day. Be safe. Stay warm. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.